Hello and welcome. We just got done with the Chiefs-Raiders game Monday night, so we have another football weekend that just completed. So without any waste, let's just hop in. The Thursday night game saw the Poop Bowl. We saw the Colts take on the Broncos, and there wasn't a touchdown scored this whole game. You can see by this stuff right here, it's just field goal, field goal, field goal, field goal the whole way through the game. Russ had a partially torn lat in his shoulder, so I guess, as much as an excuse for him playing bad, it's not, but, I guess, that's a reasoning. Russ has been so bad this year that it's just, shocking almost. I think fantasy-wise, looking at Russ's numbers, he's maybe got 27 points, one time, or even over 20 points one time in fantasy. The rest of the time, he's around, the 16-15 number. And then, basically when you watch quarters like Josh Allen put up 35 in fantasy, Mahomes putting up 20-plus in fantasy consistently, you can tell, who's a good quarterback and who's not. And, not saying that Russell's a bad quarterback, it's just for whatever reason, it's just not working this year right now with the Broncos. The coaching was also an issue too. First off, Russell, before even getting the coaching, Wilson missed KJ Hamler on that very similar play to they ran with the Super Bowl. I don't know why they don't run the ball, and that's going to become a theme. It's just, this is a shocking game. As a Colts fan, I was kind of surprised to see them win this game. I'm obviously happy with it because that was a huge win, but just the play calling on both sides was very interesting this year. So when it comes to the Broncos, they just need to get, more, I don't know if there's rumors coming out that Russell's not, the best teammate of sorts, the best way to put it. I'm not saying he's a terrible person or anything. I'm sure he's all right, but he's basically, this report's coming out that he's not the best teammate guy, and that he kind of, shows up, he'll show up and be 100%, and he'll give it all, but sometimes he doesn't interact with his teammates enough. And that's obviously a problem. And then when it comes to the Colts, their offensive line is becoming a glaring issue. First off, Matt Ryan needs to hold on to the damn football. That's getting really irritating to watch him drop it every week. But when it comes to this game, just of it individually, their tackles were getting beat like drums on the outside every single pass rush. Even Quentin Nelson got knocked on his back from a blindside hit. It was just basically a really, really awful game for the Colts. No Jonathan Taylor, even too. Pittman really didn't do too much receiving. And they still find a way to win, so good win for them. But when it comes to both these teams have a lot of problems to fix as the season goes on. As for the London game, the Packers end up losing to the Giants in a shocker. The Giants might be legit now. Saquon got hurt for a little bit, so he missed basically a quarter. And, he even missing a quarter, he had 70 rushing yards. He had a touchdown. He was basically their only weapon throughout the day, and the Packers struggled to stop him. They kept him contained. He didn't have a huge monster day, but 70 yards and a touchdown is still pretty good. And he averaged 5 on the ground, so they contained him, but he still got his. He was still making something out of nothing. Overall, I think this was more of just a surprising game for the. If I had to pick a team to be more surprised for, I think I'd be more surprised by the Packers, because they went up 17-0 and then basically lost the game. And Aaron Rodgers had a 3rd and 2 and a 4th and 2 where he could have ran the ball once. He doesn't run the ball. He throws it, gets bad at the line twice. The defense for the Giants played amazing, and they've been playing lights out here recently. It's just shocking. This isn't total panic mode for the Packers, but it's definitely an issue going forward, the way they've played these last 2 games. This isn't the same Packers team as before. And when it comes to the Giants, they're 4-1 now. Amazing opportunity to keep winning, and this is the NFC East is looking amazing this year with some of their teams, and so it's awesome to see this Giants team legit. Brian Daboll is that dude. Wink Martindale has a really good defense, and it's gonna be fun. Now it's gonna be fun to watch this Giants team because they might actually be a sneaky good. They might be the sneaky playoff team that a lot of people thought the Panthers would be, including myself. The Bills look dominant. They look like a really, really good team. Basically, Josh Allen. He had 2 deep bombs to Gabe Davis. They basically opened up the scoring, and after a muff punt, even too, one of them went 98 yards, and then the other one 62 yards. So they basically opened up the floodgates, and the Steelers might be the worst team in the NFL right now. Just looking across the board, the Steelers are really, really struggling right now. The receivers had some bad key drops and some key drives, but overall, it's hard to figure out what the Steelers team is going to be with T.J. Watt out and all that, and they're entering the new Kenny Pickett era, so you can't really blame them. It's just this is the biggest loss in the Tomlin era. And the Steelers are at a low right now. They potentially, like I said, might be the worst team in the NFL. Who knows? But the Bills just absolutely had an amazing game against them. The Bills looking like they're Super Bowl favorites again. This game was kind of shocking. The Lions went to New England and basically got shut out by Bailey Zappi and crew. Bailey Zappi, if you look, he really didn't do much of anything. He had 17 completions for 188 yards, had 1 touchdown. And then Goff, I guess, just had a bad game too. Watching, I mean, the New England just was able to run all over them. Jared Goff had that awful sack that he basically like threw the ball. Like, I mean, it looked like a Carson Wentz moment, honestly. He had the ball, he was getting sacked, he throws it away. And as he throws it away, basically the defender picks it up and runs with it. And that was the Lions just looked awful today, honestly. I mean, it's more of a scare for the Lions that they might be the same team they always are. I mean, I was high on them to begin the season. They might be able to do something, but I mean, just watching them, they've had some close losses, but I mean, that's what they did last year. They got to win some of these games, and this was a game they honestly probably should have won. As much as like the Patriots were favored, and the Patriots were this, I mean, if the Lions team was going to be any good this year, this was the game they had to win. I know they might have had a guy or two out, but I mean, they're going to the bye next week though, so at least they have some stuff to talk about and work on. But this is probably a good one for the Patriots, who now stay afloat a little bit, and now they're just basically waiting. They're trying to wait to see what happens with Mac Jones. And this shocker of a game, I mean, the Jets absolutely destroyed the Dolphins. Teddy Bridgewater went out pretty early, I think they said with an elbow and head, and they didn't let him return. Apparently he cleared concussion protocol, and some spotter said, nope, he can't come back in. And as much as I agree that the NFL needs to fix their concussion rules, I mean, they gotta find the fine line. So yeah, anyway, like what I was saying, like I think they should fix the concussion rules. I think they need to make sure they're okay, but they need to find the fine line, because like I honestly, it doesn't mind me too much, but this rule's definitely gonna get I don't want to say like taken advantage of, but like it's just, yeah, like I feel like a lot of teams now, even if like the guy gets a light hit, they think he's concussed, but he's not at all. He could just miss a week of a game and be out when he's totally fine. But I mean, it's what the Dolphins kind of did with the whole Tua situation. I mean, it's just kind of ironic that it comes to kind of backfire them now when the guy clears protocol again. But I mean, the whole concussion protocol thing, that's a whole thing that needs to be figured out by the NFL in general, along with another few rules. But like, regardless, other than that, I mean, this was a very, very impressive win for the Jets. I mean, they looked, basically the second Teddy Bridgewater went out, they looked dominant. Breece Hall is really looking like a dude. He had two plays where he's tackled at the one. They give it to Michael Carter twice. And then after, apparently also there was some drama with Tyreek Hill almost going to the Jets, but then he basically said they stunk or whatever. So on the fumble recovery, he gets stiff-armed by Quinnen Williams, and then Breece Hall ends up scoring that later possession. And I mean, it was just a really good win by the Jets. I'm pretty impressed by the Jets, honestly. Like, it's to the point now, I know the Dolphins end up having the third-string quarterback, but that's still a pretty decent defense. And, I mean, Breece Hall was able to find some holes in it and make some big plays. I mean, this Jets team is now they're in the sneaky good territory. So, and obviously the Bills are going to probably win the division, but the Jets now can have a chance to be a sneaky playoff team the way they're playing. And for the Dolphins, I mean, it's just rough. They lose another quarterback. They had to start an undrafted rookie who didn't have the worst of games, but he could have been a little bit better. And, I mean, just overall for the Dolphins, it's going to be interesting. They obviously want Tua back badly, but due to the situation they put themselves in, he might not even play football again. He might not. I don't know. But basically, like, yeah, because of this situation now, the Dolphins are in a rough spot, and the Jets were able to take advantage, and the Jets played better that day. So when it comes to division now, these two teams are tied. The Jets got a much-needed division win. And now, yeah, just a good win for the Jets, and now they're going on to play the Packers next week, and hopefully they can do some more damage. Now, this game, I mean, Bucks were up 21-0. The Bucks went up 21-0. Then the Falcons basically did nothing. Then the fourth quarter, they get 2 touchdowns to make it a little bit close. And then it's more of like the sack herd around the world. I mean, Grady Jarrett could have gone way harder, kind of tosses Brady to the side. I mean, I don't know what defenders are supposed to do at this point. As a former defensive lineman myself, it just gets like almost frustrating, because getting a sack is like one of the hardest things to do. Because I mean, especially against Tom Brady, I mean, like quarterbacks like that, I mean, he gets the ball out so quick all the time that when you have a chance to actually get a hit on him, I mean, it's hard, and it's always like split-second decisions from landing on them or hitting him too hard or taking his head off. I mean, so that, like, when it comes to the roughing the passer the rule, I mean, the NFL has to fix it. I mean, when I get to the Monday night game, I mean, it's egregious right now. I mean, there's a lot of penalties that are like that in the NFL, but I mean, it's just, they need to better define some of their rules, because like this roughing the passer that Grady Jarrett had was awful. I mean, obviously I can't show it, but basically, like, he just tackled Tom Brady around his waist, whips him this way like this, and he just basically throws him on his shoulder. Even Tom Brady came out, he's like, I'm not gonna say that was a roughing, I'm not gonna say it wasn't, but we got the win. That's all that matters. We're moving on next week. But I mean, knowing Tom Brady and knowing the way he talks sometimes, I mean, basically, if you read through the lines, like we got a bailout call, but we were able to finish the game and do with it. I mean, so regardless, I mean, you obviously can't. The game can't come down the calls. Because I mean, they were down 21-0. They could have put themselves in a better situation, scored earlier. But like, man, and Jerome Boger had that one last week with Josh Allen. I mean, he's starting to get there's a big eye on. I don't want to call out referees obviously too, because like their jobs are really, really hard. I wouldn't want to be a referee because either way you're wrong most of the time it feels like. But that call Jerome Boger had was egregious and pretty bad. So I mean, it's going to be I have another rough in the passer I'll bring up later, but it's just as a defender, it just feels like you basically can't touch the quarterback at all. And it becomes ridiculous. I mean, that play ended up basically losing the game because instead of being fourth down and getting the ball back, the Falcons the Falcons would have got the ball back on a fourth down with that sack, but then, roughing the passer, Tom Brady gets the first down, they close out the drive to win. So it's just, I mean, good win for the Bucs. Obviously, the Falcons, it was a good fight and everything, but I mean, it's just, one call obviously didn't completely change the game, but that one call really, really impacted the game. So when it just comes to NFL officiating, I just feel like they need to do a little bit better. I mean, it feels like it's way too much up to referee discretion, which I get and understand, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be this reffing. Like, it shouldn't be, all right, when this reffing crew, because I remember this in college. There was literally a game in college where it's like, all right, listen, this reffing crew, it throws a little bit extra flags on the holdings and everything like that. So if you can like kind of sell it, they'll give it to you. And then there's the next week you go into crews like, hey, they aren't going to call anything at all. So no matter what you do, you aren't getting a call regardless. And I mean, it's just like, I get it's hard sometimes, but it's just they need to fix it, man. Either way, good win for the Bucs. I mean, I'm sure the Falcons are pretty frustrated with that because they had a chance to win in the division. But regardless, Tom Brady doesn't lose 3 in a row. He gets his win. Falcons just come up short, and they both go on the next week for the Falcons just trying to bounce back, for the Bucs just keep the momentum. And this game was actually really fun. It was a shootout. I mean, the Seahawks defense looks awful, but their offense is good enough to keep putting up points. I mean, it's kind of shocking. I mean, the big news out of this game, Taysom Hill had an awesome day. He had a passing touchdown, 3 rushing touchdowns. And he was the first person to do that. It was I can't remember the stat exactly, but he's the first player to do that in a while. Or have a game like that. And I think, regardless, I mean, Geno Smith still continues to play really well. He had 3 touchdowns in the air. I mean, the big news, though, for the Seahawks is they lost Rashad Penny for the year. He broken tibia, I think they said, or they said something with the ankle, maybe. Regardless, he's having something. He has a major leg injury, and he's going to be done for the season. So, out of the sadness, I obviously hate players' injuries. I don't want to just throw this aside and act like I don't care. It's awful, but injuries is like one of the worst things that can ever happen. The rehab sucks. It's not enjoyable at all. So I hope he recovers. I hope it all goes well. But for Kenneth Walker now it's his time to step up. He had a really big rush. Because, I mean, if you look at his averages, he has 8 for 88. I'm pretty sure he had a long of like 40 or 50. They basically got all of his yards in one. But now this is his time to step up and his time to earn a role. And, I mean, when it comes for the Saints, it was a really good win. It was much needed win, too, after the way they've been playing. So, hopefully, going next week for them, they can keep it continuing going. And for the Seahawks, they continue to impress a little bit. So, it's going to be fun to see what both these two teams do next week. Because, I mean, both these teams, basically, their expectations are very high. One of these two teams can end up stealing a playoff spot if they manage to put enough wins together. And, I mean, both sides have enough talent to do it. It's just for the Saints, they got to get healthy. And for the Seahawks, they just almost got to get lucky. When it comes to this game, there's basically one touchdown in the fourth quarter. Breece Hall scored it. Dameon Pierce scored the touchdown, and it ended up being 13-6. I mean, these AFC South games just end up becoming weird. I came into the day, I picked the Jags. I thought the Jags would win, but I was talking to my grandfather, and I said I would not be surprised if the Houston Texans won this game because, I mean, it's just how the AFC South goes sometimes, where their games feel like the games they shouldn't win, they win. The ones they should win, they lose. So, I mean, it's just Trevor Lawrence, I guess, is having some fumbling issues, too. He turned over the ball twice. One of them was a really bad interception that usually he doesn't make. So, I mean, the real question is now, like, what is this Jags team? Are they still, like, really good? They blew out the Colts. They blew out the Chargers. And then they've had, like, 3 shaky losses. So, it's hard to figure out what this team was. For the Texans, it was a great win. Now there's no winless teams in the NFL anymore. So, yeah, just this wild year continues. I mean, there's not much to say about this game really, other than the Texans beat them. They got a late rushing touchdown, and Dameon Pierce looks like he's going to be really, really good. As you can see right there, they gave him 26 carries, which they probably should have been doing since the beginning of the season. He looks like he's going to be a really good running back, and he's making nothing out of something. I mean, there's not a lot of holes for him to run through, and he's finding ways to break through or find some yards. So he has a chance to be really, really good, and it's going to be fun to watch him for the Texans moving forward. And for the Jags, it's going to be interesting to see if they can bounce back from this interesting loss. When it comes to this game, this is another game not much to talk about. Titans went up early, and then they basically held on to win. Carson Wentz at the end of the game had three passes at the goal line. All could have been interception. One of them was. Just the Carson Wentz experience, honestly. He's good at football, but he has his highs and lows, and he just ended up throwing the game away at the end of the day. Derrick Henry had a really good game on the ground. As you can see, he had over 100 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. When it comes to the Titans, he's their whole offense, so when you see him get going, that's usually good, means good sides for them. This is a really important one for the Titans now. They're number 1 in the division. They don't look like they're the worst team. They're 3-2, and then there's a 2-2-1 team, and a 2-3 team, and then a 1-3-1 team. So, they look like on the heap of poop, and that is the AFC South right now. They look like they're the cream of it. And, when it comes to the Commanders, they look like they're not going to be too good this year. They can continue to struggle. They have so much talent. They almost won this game, and then they lose. So, they might be competitive in some games, but when it comes to making the playoffs, this team is starting to hit the danger zone. It's starting to look really unlikely. When it comes to this game, the Vikings were up 21-0, and then they kind of let the Bears score 22 unanswered, and then the game ended with a Kirk Cousins rushing touchdown. Justin Fields actually looked somewhat impressive today. He threw for over 200 yards, and he threw 21 times, which is really, really good. They need to start doing that some more. When it comes to the Vikings, it just was weird. They were dominant, and then they went up early and kind of let off the gas and let the Bears back in it, but this Viking team looks like they're the best of the NFC North right now, the way the Packers have been playing. So, this looks like it finally might be their year to win. It just comes all down to Kirk Cousins. And, it's just going to basically be, can Kirk Cousins do enough to get this team by? Because, they have a really good defense. It's not, I won't lie, it's not really good. It's a good defense. It's played better under Mike Zimmer, but it's not, it's still not a bad defense. And then offensively, they're about as good as they can be without changing quarterbacks. So, it was just a good one for the Vikings. For the Bears, it was nice to see them show up and actually be a little bit competitive. So now going into the Thursday night game against the Manders next week, there's a chance, it's a 1-point spread game. The Bears have a chance to win that game at home, and it'd be a must-needed win at home. When it comes to the Panthers 49ers, there's not much to say here. Matt Rule's fired. Baker Mayfield's hurt. The defensive coordinator went with Matt Rule. He's gone as well. So, this team's about to have a whole new change around. P.J. Walker's starting. This team's probably done for the year unless they have a major turnaround in 2 or 3 weeks. They're probably done. They're 1-4. They're off the rough start to the season. Their coach is gone now, which basically was inevitable, and it was just a matter of time. Now he's officially gone. Their defensive coordinator's gone, and now they lost, if good or bad, they lost Baker to a high ankle sprain. They've lost now Sam Darnold to a high ankle sprain, and they lost their rookie quarterback Matt Corral to a Liz Frank fracture in his foot. So, their quarterback position, they just continue to not be able to figure it out among other few NFL teams in the league. It'll be interesting to see if Baker... just when it comes to this team, is Baker going to be the starter when he comes back with an ankle sprain? Who knows? This team, basically for the Panthers, just going... They have a very interesting direction to go from here. And when it comes to 49ers, good win. They should have won this game. They did win this game. And it was a good performance by the 49ers. Way to handle business and get it done. When it comes to this game, the biggest thing to come out of this game was, I think the coaching. Browns went up 14-0 early and ended up losing. But the biggest thing was, the Brant Staley play. What is he doing? He goes for it 4th and 2 in his own territory at the 30-yard line, and he should have got punished for getting it. He didn't get it, and he should have got punished for making the play call, but he doesn't get punished, and instead, the Browns missed a 54-yarder. They just need to get a few more yards to make it a little easier. The kicker can make that kick. He has a really good leg, and he's really good, but he ends up missing. And the biggest thing is just the coaching. The coaching is just weird in the NFL this year with going for it as often as they do and everything, and It's just, yeah, that feels like maybe why the teams are more average, and there's a lot more teams are like 2-3 and 3-2 and all that. They play the Broncos next week, so they should have a chance to get back-to-back wins together the way they've been playing. But this is definitely a game they probably should have lost. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Chargers coach, goes from here on out, because Staley has a chance to probably get fired if the way his coaching style's been, because he's definitely he probably should have lost in that game, but it ended up not mattering at the end. And when it comes to the Browns, I mean, this is probably a game they should have won because they were up so early, but, I mean, the Chargers are a good team, so it's understandable. But before Deshaun Watson comes back, I think the practice here in a few weeks, and then he comes back week 11 or 12, I believe. So the Browns, it'd be nice for them if they could get a few more wins together to potentially be able to, because they're second in the AFC North right now. They're tied with the Bengals, so if they get an extra win or two, that'd probably go a long way in helping them with the winning the division, maybe, or making playoffs, but they aren't going to be able to win games if they lose games like this. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, it's, I think, the third week in a row he's had a bad interception to basically lose them the game. I mean, he threw it last week. He threw it at the goal line he threw it basically in the middle of the field against the Falcons, and they get intercepted. This week he threw it at the 2-yard line and gets intercepted. So, I mean, yeah, it's just, this Browns team's hard to figure out right now. They're good, but not the best. And when it comes to Chargers, they're very similar. They could be a good team, but they're held back a little bit by their coaching. And it's hard to figure out exactly who these two teams are. But the biggest storyline is Staley got very, very lucky with his 4th and 2 he didn't get. When it comes to this game, it was actually a really good game. The Eagles scored points in the second half, too, for once. I mean, they went up pretty early in the first half, and, I mean, basically after that, it was no issue. And then the Cardinals stormed back a little bit, made it really close, and then the game ended up finishing 20-17. I mean, this was actually a pretty good game to watch. The Cardinals looked a little bit better than they have the past few weeks, but I mean, you can obviously tell they need D-Hop, and that's going to come in theme with this team that's about to be coming up. Yeah, Kyler didn't play too bad, and the Eagles continue to be 5-0 and be dominant. The game next week that's going to be fun is Eagles-Cowboys. That's on, I think, Sunday Night Football. That's going to be a really fun matchup to see who wins that, because that's basically for the division. And when it comes to the Cardinals, I mean, they get D-Hop back soon, so they just need to survive another game. And one thing I am going to point out that seems weird, it seems like Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler aren't on the same page, even though Cliff wanted this guy to be his quarterback, and now it seems like, after all the outside noise and everything, it seems like these guys are a little bit too off. I might be reading into it a little bit too much, but that'll be something to look forward to just to see, because definitely if somebody's going to go, it's going to be Cliff Kingsbury after the contract Kyler just got, but I'm not saying they're definitely going to, but it's just very interesting situation to see. In the third to last game, or in the last game, I think, of the 4 o'clock window, was the Cowboys-Rams. I mean, the Cowboys, Cooper Rush basically did nothing, and it's hard to tell if this is more of the Rams being just that bad, or the Cowboys are actually pretty decent, because this is just another week. I mean, Cooper Rush basically did nothing. And when it comes to their defense is really good, first off, for the Cowboys. The Cowboys' defense is incredibly good. And then when it just comes to the offense for the Rams, you can tell that only having Cooper Kupp is an issue. I mean, Matt Stafford looks like a shell of himself. The offensive line for them played really awful. I mean, it's just bad game overall for the Rams. And for the Cowboys, I mean, they might be legit. They might be that team. I mean, they are 4-1 now when nobody thought they would be. Cooper Rush, say what you want about him. He only threw for 100 yards, but he won them the game, and he managed it well enough. So it's just hard to figure out these two teams, honestly. I mean, the Cowboys seem like a fraudulent 4-1, but I mean, their defense is good enough to where they might not be. And the Rams, it's hard to tell who they are. They played a really, really hard schedule. They've played, I think, in their 5 weeks, 3 of the top defenses. So it's hard to tell. I mean, with either of these two teams, it's still a semi-long season, but it's starting to get to the point where it's a little bit concerning for the Rams. They definitely need either Van Jefferson to come back or Allen Robinson to get on the same page as Matt Stafford. And the Sunday night game of decisions as well, it was the Bengals and the Ravens. I mean, both coaches went for it on 4th down. I think both of them didn't get it at one point, and then they both end up kicking another time, and then the Ravens end up winning on a 48-yard field goal. This was a fun game to watch. I mean, Lamar definitely had one of his worser games that he played. I mean, he missed like 2 or 3 big throws that could have opened up the floodgates for the Ravens and made him win by more, but he just misses the throws, and he has some really good throws as well during that day. It's just he missed 2 or 3 big ones, and that's what everyone's going to remember, obviously. When it comes to the Bengals, I mean, their coaching staff is kind of it makes me frustrated because they talked about how T. Higgins was going to be out there all day. Oh yeah, he's going to be okay. He's going to be okay even after limited practice. So he probably shouldn't have played. And then they put him out there like, yeah, we're going to use him situationally and all that. And then they don't use him at all, which, I mean, then they were losing. They probably should have. But, oh well. I mean, that's what they get. I mean, oh well. It happens. It's just shocking that they would say that and not play him. I mean, I get it for maybe like trying to get your opponent, but you could tell without T. Higgins that and all the focus on Jamar Chase, this offense definitely got a little bit limited. And when it comes to offensive line of the Bengals, I mean, my lord. Lyle Collins said he's going to be his bodyguard, and he's ending up on his back more than he is blocking people. I mean, the offensive line needs to figure it out for the Bengals. That's their biggest thing. They definitely had their chance to win this game if they could have protected Joe Burrow a little bit better, but they just could not. So the Ravens end up getting a very important win on Monday night to be in the lead of the division. When it comes to the Monday night game, I mean, this was a really, really good game. Raiders go up 17-0 huge early, basically shock the Chiefs, and then. But the biggest story then, there's two stories. I'm going to go with the one that made me the most mad first before the fun one. So first off, before I get into both of those, I mean, great game by the Chiefs. It comes down to, I think, there was a 3rd and 2 that shocked me. Mahomes throws it deep, doesn't get the pass, goes incomplete. They give the Raiders the ball back. Raiders have a chance to kick a field goal to win. They make it look like Devontae Adams had an amazing catch. They end up calling back because they said he didn't tuck the ball in time. He didn't get full possession. So then the very last play for the Raiders, Hunter Renfrow, because of the way Devontae Adams got jammed. He got bumped into Hunter Renfrow. They end up tripping over each other and on 4th and 1, and that's how they lose the game. Very frustrating way to lose the game, but now the 2 points that were interesting in this game, the first one was a roughing the passer call. Chris Jones literally dislodged the ball. The ball was free, and then he landed it on Derek Carr, and you could tell that he was trying to brace the fall too. Picks up the ball and runs, but they called it roughing the passer after the ball was free. I mean, it was. You want to talk about the Grady Jarrett one was bad. This one was way, way worse. I mean, the fans let them have it the whole end of the half. I mean, as they should have. The whole NFL Twitter page and everything, like every place that basically you could talk about NFL football was blowing up about this. I mean, he literally hit the guy, the ball was free, and then he landed on him and picked up the ball. I mean, it's the first time in history that they called a roughing the passer when the guy didn't have the ball. And I think it was tweeted out by even like Tom Pelissero or Mike Garafolo. Like, this is tweeted out by high up people in the NFL. I mean, they're even like, come on, you can't call that. And I mean, it just felt like a ref bowl last night. I mean, I didn't want to say much about or complain about the refs because, like I said, their job's hard and I'm not here to harp on them. But it just feels like when there's a flag, almost every other player, there's just flag. It's a bit ridiculous and egregious. I mean, it felt like almost every other play in that game there was a flag. At one point, there was a flag for something, but the roughing the passing penalty was horrible. I mean, it's one of the worst calls I've ever seen. Like I said, the guy didn't even have the ball, and that was going to flip the momentum of the game for the Chiefs in that spot right there. And instead, the Raiders, instead of getting 7 potentially the other way, the Raiders end up getting the ball, and that was on that was on 3rd down and a half, and it was a good spot for the Chiefs to take over, and then, of course, they called that, and then the Raiders ended up getting 3 out of it. But the big story for the Chiefs is Kelsey has 4 touchdowns, first time since 1985 a tight end's done it. It's only the 4th time in history a tight end's had 4 touchdowns. I mean, it was very clear from the get. Like, after his second one, when I was watching the game, I noticed that he wasn't getting the ball much in the middle of the field. Like, when they were driving, it was everyone else. When they were in the red zone, there was one guy that he was going to, and it was Travis Kelsey. And after the second one, you started to get that feeling, oh, he might have a big night. And then he got a 3rd. And I mean, I'm looking at FanDuel. I'm like, there's no way he gets a 4th, right? I mean, I'm just looking. And of course he gets a 4th. I mean, Kelsey's so good at football. I mean, those were Patrick Mahomes' 4 touchdowns. Big game for the Chiefs. And I mean, yeah, like I said, the two guys run into each other basically in the game, and they escape with a win for the Raiders. I mean, awful defeat. Devontae Adams pushed a camera guy too at the end of the game. It's going to be interesting to see what the ramifications for that were, but all in all, just an awful loss for the Raiders. It really is heartbreaking for that, and for the Chiefs, it was a much-needed win. And now for some of the college games last week, Indiana hung around with Michigan in the first half. I think it was because, I don't remember what coaching staff was. I'm pretty sure it was Michigan. Some guy ended up having a seizure, I think, on the sideline. So, I mean, that game had some very serious stuff happen, so it got paused for a bit. So then Indiana was able to hang around, and Michigan ended up winning and all that. Hopefully that coach is okay. Mississippi State just dominates Arkansas. That was kind of surprising to see. Tennessee dominates LSU. I mean, LSU being ranked was kind of surprising a little bit. But, I mean, I respect them for being ranked, but now, like, yeah, they probably won't be ranked anymore. They just got beat down. And Tennessee plays, I think, Alabama next week. That's going to be a fun game to watch. Kansas TCU was an amazing, amazing college football game. I mean, Jalen Daniels gets hurt for Kansas pretty early on. Then Jason Bean? I think it's his name. But the Bean's backup quarterback for Kansas. He comes in, balls out. But TCU looks like they might be a squad this year. Texas absolutely destroys Oklahoma. I think they'll probably get ranked now. Cincinnati survived South Florida. Oklahoma State played a really good win against Texas Tech. They're a really, really good team as well. UCLA pulled off a real upset against Utah. That was an impressive win for UCLA. Now they might have a squad. That's going to be fun to watch. Georgia beats up on Auburn bad. Ole Miss beats Vanderbilt pretty bad. Ohio State beats Michigan State pretty bad. They're pretty much done, I think, at this point. Michigan State is. James Madison, I think, basically is going to get ranked now, but they apparently have a really good team as well. They've had some very impressive wins. So it's going to be fun to see what that team does. Kansas State beats Iowa State, barely, but a very good game for them. USC beats Washington State, much needed. Illinois wins the Poop Bowl against Iowa. Clemson destroys Boston College, as you can see. South Carolina upset Kentucky without their starting quarterback, so that kind of sucks for Kentucky. That's definitely going to affect them now with two losses back-to-back. NC State escapes Florida State with a win. That's a huge win for them after the defeat to Clemson last week. Wake Forest blows out Army, so they might go up 1 or 2 in the rankings. Then Oregon beats Arizona to round it out. Going into the next week, I mean, as you can see, there's some fun matchup. Michigan against Penn State, that's going to be a fun game to watch. Alabama, Tennessee is going to be a lot of fun. As you can see, too, like Kansas only dropped like 1 spot. NC State, I think, dropped 1 as well. Clemson went up 1. TCU went up a few. Tennessee went up a lot. Illinois is finally ranked. They play Minnesota. Kentucky dropped all the way to 22. They play Mississippi State. I mean, this week there's a lot more ranked matchups than there usually has been the past week. That Syracuse game against NC State, that's going to be fun. So when it comes to college, I mean, yeah, they should have a lot of fun games next week. I mean, hopefully it's just another good week of college football because college football has not disappointed so far this year. When it comes to NFL next week, I mean, we start off with another rough Thursday night game with the Bears-Manders. But then, as we said, like Sunday night game, Eagles-Cowboys is going to be really, really good. The Ravens-Giants might end up being a good game, honestly. I mean, we'll have to see, but you never know. Chiefs-Bills is going to be a really fun game. So, I mean, overall, and then Broncos-Chargers might be fun Monday night if the Broncos figure out offense, but we'll see at this point. Overall, I mean, like, it's been a fun. These NFL games, college has been a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of crazy upsets in there. And then when it comes to NFL, NFL continues to be a crazy league. I mean, any given Sunday at this point, right? So going into next week, hopefully there's just another fun day of football, and yeah, it's gonna just hopefully be another fun week.